Now, for the purposes of this, I know he just talked, right?
Yes.
What do you mean? What'd you say?
Both
I'm
talking.
getting into the verite of this thing. Leave me alone.
Me too.
Okay, we're going to get started.
All right.
Sure.
Okay.
And the first question is, how did the two of you first meet?
How did the two of us first meet? This is your first question?
Yes.
Aren't you ashamed?
This is a big one.
That is so. First of all, I would like to comment, where did you get that tie? And don't say I gave it to you.
I don't know. These things come up in life. That somebody sends you something and it looks good at the
You know-
moment.
You know who he looks like? He looks like Nathan Detroit and, Guys and
Let me
Dolls.
see what the tie is. And I took it.
He played Nathan Detroit.
I don't know. Does it say anything there, Ann? That gives you any idea of what it is?
It says, hand sewn
By
by child labor.
Oh,
in Korea.
another one of those shows. Another. Well,
Okay.
that's the tie.
I'm sorry. How did we first meet?
Yes.
Didn't you ask Jerry that when I wasn't here?
No, we waited.
Oh, okay. We met in an agent's office, and Jerry has a humorous story about it that I really disagree with. But
Well, Jerry, why don't you start, and if
Well, this,
corrections need to be made.
Oh, well, I met Ann when I was trying to do a comedy act with another girl named Bee
you look very cute. Do you know that?
today.
Yes. Did you thank Lisa? Lisa did our faces.
Yes, we're
And our hair.
We are what we are at the moment, thanks to Lisa.
You met me in an agent's office. Can you
I'll try to do it fast. We met in an agent at what they call in those days, in the 50s, a cattle call, which meant on summer stock, they wanted people to go out on the straw hat circuit and fill in.
This is not a fast way if you're taking the time to define what a catacall is. Just go. We met. We were there in the office.
We met, but they have to understand. Okay, we went in the office. We went in to see the agent so we can get work with stars that were. Then they filled in with
Summer stock.
So they with actors who were hanging around looking for work. And I was going with this other girl at the time, thinking I could do a comedy act. She wanted to get rid of me pretty damn quick because I wanted to do more than a comedy act with this girl. And so anyway, as we came into the office, there was this friend of this Bee, Mortensen, her name was, sweet woman. There's Ann Meara. Why don't you say hello to Ann Meara, who at that point was a very beautiful
This is B
young...
talking, telling you to say hello to me
Yeah,
because she wanted to dump you.
I just said that.
Okay.
So anyway, while we were not dumped at the moment, Ann Meara looked very sweet and brown hair, looked very, very cherubic and beautiful. Gets called in by the agent to audition, whatever it is. 2 minutes later, she comes flying out of the office, crying and screaming. And I said, what happened? She said, he chased me all around the room. I said, oh my God. Next person in was Jerry Stiller. I walk in, and I knew the guy for a little bit before, and I said, why'd you chase that girl around the room? He says, because I like her. Now it's your turn. And he chased me around the room. And anyway, I come outside, and there she is.
That's funny, like in about 1945, that's funny.
But it's the way it happened.
Yeah.
The way I said it happened. Anyway, so I'm outside again, and there's B. Mortensen saying, why don't you take this girl out to lunch or to tea or whatever it is? And she's still screaming and crying from having been chased.
That's right.
So I took her
Big
down.
parochial tears streaming down my cheeks.
I took her down to this place. I took her down to this place called Longley's, a cafeteria with coffee and whatever. I figured when we got there, because on the side, actors always, aside from the fact of getting a job, maybe you could have a romantic relationship with some of these women who were running around looking for fame and fortune. And you never knew where their heads were at. They were crazy. You never know. And I figured this was one who was a possibility. And I took her down there and I figured she was going to buy a sandwich. She's going to have dessert. She's going to have soup. She orders a cup of coffee. I said, this is incredible.
Sandwich soup, you're turning into Jackie Mason.
Whatever it is. But anyway, she doesn't order much. We start talking about show business, where things go. And at the end of this whole conversation, I say, can I pick up your check, which was for coffee? She says, forget the check, just pick up some silverware, stick it in your pocket, and let's get the hell out of here. And I said, oh my God, this is horror. And there was something about her that was very...
Attractive.
Attractive.
He found felons attractive.
Yes. And anyway, we said goodbye.
And you abetted a felon.
Absolutely. Anyway, as life takes you in the New York streets and show business, I met her again at a show, or an off-Broadway show that was being put on by a group called the Globe Players. The Globe Players were people who were asked to go knock on doors and ask people for $1 so we could put on a show. And you know how far that will take you in New York City. So that didn't work out. But we did put on a show for some veterans at the Fort Hamilton Hospital in
Yes,
Brooklyn.
and it was very sad. It was a comedy by, who was it by?
It was called Squaring the Circle, and it was a comedy that went back about communism and how the satire,
People
whatever.
living in a commune or something, and this is before American communes, but it was supposed to be humorous, and
Now you're talking long and hard.
I didn't get to talk yet because you didn't leave any spaces. But the veterans, you know, they were recovering. They were ill, and it was very sad because
Not only that, they
it
were.
was sad that they had to listen to this play because we sucked. We really sucked. And they were a trapped audience. I mean, they were in wheelchairs, these guys.
Then what happened?
That's how we met.
You want to know, what
So,
you want to continue
Let
the
him
story?
ask a
Do
question.
you
No,
want to
no,
add anything to that, Ann, your meeting?
Add anything?
To the first meeting?
No, the first meeting was, as he says,
Wait,
it
wait,
was
wait.
exaggerated.
Finish
but
the
it's all right.
story. What, if you're going to go on and.
What story?
The story was, at that point, after we were very depressed by having to play for the guys who were not well and in wheelchairs, and she said, why don't you come over to my house and have some spaghetti? And I said, where do you live? And she said, I live in the village. That's, and why don't you, so I said, why not? So I go with her.
He hears I live in Greenwich Village, and this is like 1953, so that's code for I can get lucky tonight. She lives in the village.
Exactly.
And he did. He got lucky
No,
that night.
no, don't put your, no, she was not lucky that night.
Yes,
and
I
wasn't
did.
lucky. No, get out of here.
I got lucky, too.
Not that night.
I was lucky.
To be born at the same time as you. That's a song that came out of it. But anyway,
It was the first night you slept over with me.
Get out of here.
I remember it that
No,
way.
you were more respectable than that, Ann. Come on.
This is truly
No,
Rashomon.
no.
It wasn't
Here's what
respectable.
no, here's
You
what
are so- I had to leave Catholicism, convert to Reform Judaism, and to marry my 8th grade nun. I can't believe you. You are so rigid, so puritanical.
Still?
Yes,
Oy,
not
well,
always.
here we are. But
Not
anyway,
always, not in
yeah.
private moments.
Well, let me just finish this very quickly.
Okay.
I get to her apartment in Greenwich Village, which is one of those things that there was a great play called My Sister Eileen, which really talked about these kids from Ohio who come to New York and live in a village, and they get turned on by, these bohemians. Well, she lived in a bohemian apartment behind another house, one house behind a house.
Bohemian
and a car.
cockroaches, too.
So I got into the apartment, and there was her 3 rooms, one and a kitchen. And as I look at the walls, it was like all in al fresco, plaster and painted blue. But on the walls are these little squiggles, these little things that seem to be attached. And I said to her, what are those squiggles? She says, that's the spaghetti. I throw it against the wall to find out if it's al dente. And you paint it over blue. Yes, you paint it over blue. So she made this spaghetti dinner, and I had the spaghetti dinner. We talked,
That's
we chatted.
true, that's
but
true.
I went home. Let's get it straight. I
You
didn't.
stayed over, and I invited you. That's the way it was. And that is the way you test spaghetti. If you throw it against the wall and it sticks, it's al dente.
All right, have it
Next
your way.
question.
All right.
Now, how did you were married for a while before you decided to become a team. What instigated that?
Jerry started us being a comedy team. He always thought I would be a great comedy partner, and in that time in my life, I disdained comedians. I thought they were gross. I thought they broke the fourth wall and went for laughs and all that crap.
And you wanted to be what?
I wanted to be like Maureen Stapleton and
Kim
wonderful
Stanley,
actress
yeah.
who's no longer with us, Kim Stanley, and I was a snoot. I was elitist or something. But I'm glad he got us to be a comedy team because then we weren't just waiting for the agent to call. I mean, we traveled with our own stuff, and we got into actually the act started after a whole summer we spent. He always got me a job. Jerry was in a troupe called the Compass Players, an improvisational troupe, and he got them to hire me because they needed another girl. And in the troupe was Nancy Ponder, a wonderful actress and comedian, and Alan Arkin, a wonderful actor, and Jerry Stiller. And David Shepard was the director and creator of this. And I auditioned, and, because I got the job. I was sleeping with one of the actors, so it was worked out.
So you were writing your own material? You wrote your own act?
We did later after the Compass ended. We auditioned for a review in Chicago that was not improvisational, that was set pieces. But Jerry had that in the back of his mind, and he made us agent-free. I mean, that we then started to play in the village and little coffee houses and stuff like that.
Were you nervous to put this out?
Does vomiting constitute nerves? Yes. I was nervous.
But Ann was also, I met Ann when she first did a play down in the village called Which Way is Home. It was a play in which she played it was a bird.
Played a woman who turned into a bird, an egret.
An egress. And
Everybody turned into a bird or a tiger or something. There were 3 one-act plays developed by a very talented woman who is still an excellent writer, Ellen Violet. And it was Which Way is Home, O'Halloran's Luck, and a one-act play by Gertrude Stein called Brucey and Willie. And in O'Halloran's Luck was a wonderful actor named Milo O'Shea, who he's been over here long enough to have dropped his brogue by now, but he keeps that brogue going.
Yeah. But we also did some work together for Joe Papp in the park. We played.
He hired me again. Jerry got Joe Papp to hire me.
Well,
I'm not making this up.
We're trying to keep our life together at the same time, you know, have some kind of a connection. And Joe was very amenable. We were. I said, Joe, I can't do Romeo and Juliet. I can't do Two Gentlemen without Anne and pay the rent. He said, well, okay, we'll hire her. So she got to play Julia in Two Gentlemen of Verona.
Right. I got to play the second witch in the Scottish play, and Jerry was the porter, right?
Yeah, I did the porter.
And what was the third? Oh, you were in Romeo and Juliet. I wasn't
Yeah.
in that. He played Peter,
Yeah.
and he got a rave review from
Walter Kerr.
Walter Kerr,
Yeah.
a wonderful theatrical critic of our time.
Yeah,
And he gave Jerry a great review.
yeah.
And how did you get your first break on television as Stiller and Meara?
First break on television is Stiller and Meara.
This is so hard, these questions.
This is, you know,
We
this
really
is all
could
like a
start
real...
to figure out where we were. At the
I
time.
hope anyone watching this film, you know, if they can think back 10 minutes in their life, they're lucky. I think the first... we auditioned for the Merv Griffin show, didn't we?
Did we have to audition? No, we didn't audition. What we did was when we were down at the Phase 2 where we were doing the improvs, Larry Hollofcenter, who was the talent coordinator for Merv Griffin, came down and saw us, and he liked us, and he said, we'll get you guys on the Merv Griffin show. He had a daytime show at the time, and Larry then said, I have a couple of suggestions for you. I had something with the sketch. He told me, cut the first 5 minutes, and the sketch only ran 7 minutes. So, but we took his advice, and
He was very helpful.
He was very helpful, and Larry did Mr. Wonderful. He wrote the lyrics for Mr. Wonderful.
Right.
But anyway, we got on that show.
Now he lives on the Isle of Wight, and he sculpts things.
Yeah, he's
Tell you, people's lives are wacky. It's great, the way they...
he should be coming back again. Larry.
He doesn't have to come back
You know.
here.
But anyway, we did the Merv Griffin, and that show in which we did a sketch about it, I forget what the sketch was, Mr. Selman,
Yeah.
was based on the show that was on Broadway.
Middle of the Night.
Middle of the Night. There was Edward G. Robinson, and Janet Rowlands was on it, and Joni Robinson.
Well, he played a guy, the boss, taking me home. I was his secretary, and a little contretemps at the door. That's what the...
and Merv
gist-
Griffin liked it, and then what became our manager at the time took that tape to Ed Sullivan, and Ed Sullivan liked it, the Sullivan people, Bob Precht,
Right.
and they hired us for one shot on Ed Sullivan.
And that was Bob Chartoff who took it there.
Bob Chartoff,
Right,
yeah.
Did you do that sketch on the Ed Sullivan show as well?
Yeah, we did it along. That was one of the first sketches. I think that's all we had at the time.
I don't know if we did that one on Sullivan. We did do the first sketch we ever did. May I interrupt? May I interrupt? I
Oh,
asked you a question.
stop that.
Hey,
Me.
Come on, these are people.
Don't turn me into the Thurber woman. Come on, knock it
Come
off.
on. You know, no, there's nothing like you. But anyway, we did Jonah and the Whale, which I think I talked
Yes.
about earlier, about a man who goes to visit his daughter in Miami Beach. He goes up in the water. His name is Mr. Jonah. He ends up talking about the fact that he was swallowed by a whale.
That's right.
And
I interviewed him. I was
and she was
based on a character of a current interviewer of the time, or woman journalist named Pauline Fredericks.
That's right. Very
I
famous.
believe, and I'm sure she's at the Academy somewhere on a piece of tape.
Yeah.
But he was great as Mr. Jonah.
Well, she was
And
great at
Sullivan
45
loved
Days,
it.
yes.
At what point did you create the alter egos that you used?
The alter egos.
Did we have alter egos?
I didn't know we were going to use words like alter egos. I'm so excited. I'm getting like a rush. Alter egos. Did we do that? Did we do that?
Well, does that mean that
You mean Hershey Horowitz and Mary Elizabeth Doyle?
Oh, alter egos.
Yeah, the uber Jewish guy and the uber Irish girl.
Yeah, yeah, Hershey and Mary Elizabeth. That was later.
That was Jerry's idea to use and plumb the depths of our backgrounds, exaggerate them, and have the two differences of the
It came, yeah.
Jewish and the Gentile.
Yeah, it came out of the need to find another piece of ourselves. We're running out of the tall woman and the short
Jerry,
guy.
it came out of a need because we had a date on Sullivan like in a week and a half, and we had to have a sketch.
It was a desperation to
That's
come
what
up
it
with new
was.
material. We wrote every one of those sketches for that show between the two of us. It broke up a marriage almost.
Yes,
Our
it
children
did.
became estranged from us. They were living in the other room. They would come in and say that we were doing a
You
sketch.
see, you mercilessly exploit and say crap on television. That's caca. They said I could say
I'm
that.
leaving show business. I don't.
Come back.
You were pretty good up till now. You know that.
Sit
But
up
I-
straight. Do you want a phone book to sit on?
Can I tell this?
Please.
Children do come into the picture in your life. And at one point, Ann said to me one day, I'm not going to go out and keep doing this comedy act over and over and over again until we get the big series. I want to have kids or we have no marriage. So we did have our first child, Amy, and she came into our life, and a few years later came Ben. But the thing about it is we lived in very close quarters. We had like 4 rooms or something, plus a bathroom, whatever, and we had to divide one room up for the 2 kiddies. And what we would do is we figured this was going to be wonderful. We'd go in the living room and write sketches, and the kids would be in the other room doing whatever children do, grow up. But we used to do a sketch called Hate. Hate what had to do with a husband and wife who talked about how miserably they are to each other. I hate you. You don't know what hate is, the kind of hate I have for you. So one day our daughter Amy walks into the room and she says, Daddy, Mommy, fight. And I looked at Amy and I said, no, Daddy, Mommy, rehearse. A few days later, we were fighting. Amy came in and said, Daddy, Mommy, rehearse. So the kids were confused from a very early age on. And
I said, no, we're fighting.
We're fighting.
That's what you're doing.
So we had so these kids were brought up in this particular environment, which had nothing to do with growing up as a real thing. All they saw was this mystique.
You insist on turning us into the 7 Little Foys or something. I don't know what you...
Well, all I
This
remember-
is our interview. It's not about family values, discussions of whatever, family and stuff.
Ann's right.
Go ahead, ask some real poignant, edgy questions.
How much rehearsal were you allowed for the Ed Sullivan show? How much time did you have to get your act together?
You know, he didn't care. Ed Sullivan did not care how long it took for you to come up with something, whether you were spinning plates or whether you were, doing a tango or whether you were the little baby Opal, the elephant who forgot herself on stage one time. It was live from New York, before Saturday Night Live. But we would come with the material in the afternoon and do it, and he would sanction it, like the Vatican. It's okay, you go on that night, or not. But we would rehearse it and break it in different clubs, like the Improv in New York, the original improvisation,
Pips and Sheep's
Pips
Head
in
Bay.
Sheep's Head Bay.
Wherever you could. Wherever you could get on.
There wasn't the plethora of all the comedy clubs that exist today. I mean, every shopping mall has, your
You get-
$1.98 comedy club or
Yeah.
something.
Well, I have to just say, you permit me to, Ed Sullivan was very unique in dealing with us and our material.
Let me just stop you right there, Jerry, because
Yeah.
it's the end of our first tape.